Alright, here it is of my Pokemon anime journey. So we finished Johto and my character is on a ship going to Hoenn, as well as my trainer having Scummy on his team now. You're going to be surprised what kind of adventure I got planned for my trainer. He'll be going on special routes like in the anime. He'll encounter Pokemon that are on different routes. Okay, I know you're excited, so let's get started. So after riding the ship from Kanto to Hoenn, Omega arrived at Lavaridge Town and decided to stay at the Pokémon Center. However, there wasn't a Pokémon Center, so Omega decided to camp out. While camping, a young trainer asked Omega for a Pokémon battle against his Zigzagoon. Even though Omega has his Skarmory, was able to win against the trainer's Zigzagoon. When Omega won the battle against his Zigzagoon, he said he wished he had the Mudkip from Professor Birch. After knowing where Professor Birch lived, Omega decides to go and see him in the next morning. When morning came, after knowing where Professor Birch lived, he decided to go and see him. While walking, he saw an orange lightning coming from a distance. Not knowing what it is, he decides to follow the orange lightning, only to meet up with Ash and his Pikachu. A man with a lab coat, who is Professor Birch, along with a girl in the bicycle with a bandana, is trying to help Ash and his Pikachu. So after a branch hanging rescue, then a twisted turn event, Team Rocket's latest Pikachu catcher ends up absorbing all of his necessary electricity, then sends Team Rocket blasting off with a thunderbolt. After all that, Ash, along with Professor Birch, Omega, and the girl with the bandana named May, headed back to make sure Ash's Pikachu is rested at Professor Birch's laboratory. While Pikachu is resting, Professor Birch asks May if she's ready to choose her first Pokemon. And just like in the anime, May chooses Torchic. While May is liking her Torchic, Omega is liking Professor Birch's Trico. And when he done petting, the Trico climbed on his shoulder. Professor Birch liked what he saw and asked Omega if he would like to take the Trico. Omega was surprised, but Professor Birch said he wouldn't mind letting her have the Trico. Omega not knowing what to say, he said he would like tomorrow to think about it. So the next day, after a lot of thinking, Omega told Professor Birch they will accept the Trico. On the same day, Ash's Pikachu was fully healed, and Ash and May were about to head to Oldale Town to sign up for the Hoenn League. However, this time, Omega was going to come with them for a bit. Just like in the anime, May tried to capture Azure with her Torchic, but ended up getting water guns by Azumarill, Marill, and Azumarill. After passing through the Oldale ruins and getting instructed by Professor Eldon, the trainers arrived at the Pokemon Center in Oldale Town. As soon as they arrived at the Pokemon Center, May gave a Torchic to Nurse Joy to get healed up. While Torchic is healing, Ash talks to Professor Oak and introduces him to May, and also told him that he's going to the Hoenn League. Omega called his family and told him that he's also registered for the Hoenn League as well. When both trainers finished their phone calls, Ash and Omega then showed May around the Pokemon Center. After overhearing a conversation about the new Petalburg City Gym leader, Ash wanted to know who the gym leader is. They then snapped Ash and then said she's hungry and wants to go to the restaurant. So while eating in the restaurant in the Pokemon Center, Professor Eldon approaches the trio and sits down and joins them in the dinner table. Eldon then escorts the trio to the research center in the office inside the Pokemon Center. While Professor Eldon explained the detail about how to enter the ruins, then all of a sudden the electricity goes out, and then a few Grunts members came in with Houndoons. Joy then walked into the room, but she got caught behind by another Grunt member. May, Ash, Omega, and Joy were thrown into the storage room, but the trainer escaped by entering the ventilation shaft and locating the master key to restore the electricity. After freeing Nurse Joy, assures the trio that she'll be fine inside the Pokemon Center. Ash, May, and Omega turned their attention to helping Professor Eldon. Just like in the anime, the Grunts got away by the helicopter, but Professor Eldon was unharmed. The Team Rocket trio were trying to steal the 4 orbs that are keys to the Oldale ruins, but they got blasted away by Ash's Pikachu's Thunderbolt. Professor Eldon recovered the orbs, and all 4 headed to inside the ruins cabinet. After revealing the hidden staircase leading to a basement area, the 4 came across the underground lake. Soon enough, a Relicanth jumped out of the water, followed by several other Relicanth. Satisfied, Professor Eldon thanked the 3 for their work. On the next day, May received a fully healed Torchic, and Professor Eldon told them that the people of the Asian Pokemon happily coexist. Later, Omega, Ash, and May headed to Petalburg City. On Route 102 between Petalburg City and Oldale Town, the trio encountered a wild rose. May was about to catch it, but Omega stopped her and told her that he will show her how to catch a Pokemon. At first, May wanted to catch the Pokemon, but Ash also said she should watch. In the end, May stand back and watch Omega catches the Rolls. Omega was about to call out his Skarmory, but instead call out his newest Pokemon, Trico. However, Trico doesn't know a lot of good moves. His only moves were Pound, Leer, and Quick Attack. However, thanks to Omega's battle experience, was able to capture the wild Rolls. After the battle was over, Omega was gonna call back his Trico in his Pokeball, but then Trico decides to go on his shoulder. Omega then accepts, and then they all went to Petalburg City. Once the trio arrived at Petalburg City, Ash was very excited to take on the gym leader. However, May went her own way to do a few things. So, Omega and Ash went to Petalburg Gym, only to meet with a boy named Max. Max didn't care about Ash since he didn't do well in the Kanto League or the Silver Conference. Instead, liked Omega winning the Kanto League and coming in second in the Silver Conference. After knowing May's father was the gym leader and Max was lying, they all introduced themselves. Then May's mother Caroline invited Omega and Ash for lunch in their house. While eating, May told her dad that Ash and Omega would like to have a gym battle. However, the gym battle is a 3-on-3 and Ash only has one Pokemon. But Omega has 3. However, he said he wants to get his team stronger before battling in a 3-on-3. Max asks why, and he says that Trico and Rolls are still beginners, so he needs to train them up until they're ready. So in the end, Ash gets an unofficial battle against Norman. After the loss against Norman's Vigoroth, Ash realized he needs to train in order to win the badge in Petalburg City. After another quick scuffle with Team Rocket, Ash and May were about to hit the road to Rustboro City, but Max decided to tag along too. However, Omega decided to stay in Petalburg because he needs to train his Rolls and Trico. Ash and May understand, so they went their separate ways. The next day, Omega trained his Trico and Rolls with Skarmory. Suddenly, Trico then suddenly learned a Bullet Seed. Omega congratulated Trico, along with Rolls and Skarmory. When they stopped their training, they saw a green-haired stickly boy was watching them. Omega introduced him as well as his team, and the boy introduced him as Wally. Wally was distracted by Omega's training. Wally tells Omega that he's going to the gym to have Norman help him catch a Pokemon before he moves to Savannah Town to live with his aunt and uncle. Omega then decides to take a break and check on Wally catching a Pokemon. When they arrived at gym, Norman let Wally have his Zigzagoon. However, Norman was too busy, so Omega decides to help him catch a Pokemon. Using Norman's Zigzagoon, Wally was able to catch her a Rolls. And before you comment, no, he didn't catch her a shiny Rolls.
Are you kidding me? He found a shiny Rolls!
After Wally catches his Rolls, he gave Omega a Pokenavi to say thanks. 2 days have passed and Omega's Trico and Rolls have improved themselves, so they said their goodbye to Norman and Caroline, then headed to Rustboro City. Thanks to the Pokenavi from Wally, Omega was able to navigate and arrived at Risha Town outside Petalburg Woods in 3 days. After meeting with Ash and his friends in Risha Town, along with saving a group of Shroomers who has to leave their abandoned mansion they call home from being destroyed with the help of Axel, the grandson of the mansion's owner, along with scuffling with Team Rocket yet again. In the end, Omega sees how great the Shroomers are, decides to ask one of them if he would like to come along with him. One of the Shroomers came up and decides to want to go along with him. After battling the Shroomers with his Rolls, he ended up catching it, adding Shroomers as his 4th Pokemon. And before you ask, this is one of the multiple of Shroomers, and not the one that Ash and Max met. Omega then headed his own way, leaving once again with Ash and his friends. In Omega's path, he battles and trains with Shroomers, Rolls, and even Trico. At last, Omega arrived at Rustboro City, and after healing his team, he went to the Rustboro Gym. However, the gym leader wasn't there, as the gym leader was at the Pokemon Trainer School Academy, right next door of the gym. After meeting Roxanne in her beginner class, along with meeting Ash and his companions, unfortunately Ash won't be battling against Roxanne, neither will Omega, since she's busy at school. So Omega decides to volunteer and help her out, alongside with Ash and Brock. After another quick scuffle with Team Rocket, Roxanne will be selecting gym battles first thing tomorrow morning. But unfortunately, Omega won't be battling against Roxanne first, because Ash will be going first. So Omega watches Ash's battle against Roxanne, and just like in the anime, Ash won and got the stone badge. On the next day, it was Omega's turn, and Ash's friends are gonna watch his battle against Roxanne. Just like in the anime and the games, Roxanne called out a Geodude, while Omega called out a Shroomish. When the battle started, Omega tells Shroomish to use Stun Spore and Leech Seed, and by dodging Geodude's Rock Throw and leaving his Mega Punch, thanks to Stun Spore, paralyzes Geodude, and by Shroomish using Tackle to deal damage, along with Absorb to steal Geodude's health, to take down Roxanne's Geodude. Roxanne then called back as Geodude, and called out her Nose Pass. Omega Shroomish was worn out battling against her Geodude, but Omega Shroomish wants to battle against her Nose Pass. However, Roxanne's Nose Pass was able to deflect Shroomish's Stun Spore by using his Sandstorm. Then, her Nose Pass finished Shroomish with Zap Cannon. Omega then called back Shroomish and called out his Trico. With Trico knowing Bullet Seed attacking from a distance, and using Quick Attack to dodge Nose Pass's Rock Tomb, Omega's Trico might be able to win. But in the end, Omega's Trico got hit by Nose Pass's Thunder Wave, and used Rock Tomb to imprison Trico. But before deciding to give up, Trico started to glow and evolve into Grovyle. And just like the other Grovyles in the anime, when he evolved, he learned his signature move, Leaf Blade. With the new move, and was able to two-shot Nose Pass, winning the battle. When the battle was over, Roxanne gives Omega the Stone Badge. After that, Omega went a separate way with Ash and his friends, and headed to the Pokémon Center in Rustboro City to heal his team. While his team was healing, Omega was told about a gym in Dewford Town. Since he doesn't have a boat or using Lapras, he decided to fly over there with Skarmory once his team was fully healed at the Pokémon Center. Then he used Skarmory to fly to Dewford Town. But instead of going straight to the gym, he wanted to get his team ready. So, after 3 full days of training, he met up once again with Ash's friend in the Dewford Pokémon Center. Once again, Ash wants to go to the Dewford Gym and challenge against the gym leader, Brawly. However, just like the anime, Ash lost against Brawly's Machamp and Hariyama. Omega, seeing how Brawly's team was so strong, decided to still do some training, while Ash does the same. Omega then decided to chill out with his team members and catch a water type. Omega then fished out some Magikarp and some Tentacles, but the one Pokemon he fished out was a Speel. Never seen a Speel before, he decided to battle it with a Shroomish. After a while, Omega threw a Pokeball. After 3 shakes, Omega catches a Speel. On the next day, he decides to go to Gravel Cave to find any newer Pokemon he hadn't seen. After walking around, he found an Aron. After battling with Aron, he catches it, adding Aron to his team. Another 2 days have passed, and Omega's Rolts finally evolved into Curlier. Once Curlier evolved, she learned a new move known as Calm Mind and Double Team. After meeting with Ash and his friends at the beach alongside Professor Birch, along with a boy named Keanu, after listening to his story and convince him, with their help, to go back and reclaim the secret base from Team Rocket. Once they arrived at the secret base, and they were emerged in horror to find all stuff destroyed. They all noticed a tunnel, then they all went in to find themselves at an ancient site. But they were not alone. The red grunts in Oldale Town were also there, along with some blue grunts. The red and blue grunts were talking to each other, unknowing that Omega and his friends were watching them. Omega and the others then heard about the red team's name is Team Magma, led by a man named Tabitha, while the blue grunts, known as Team Aqua, was led by Shelly. After listening to them talk about the red and blue owls, along with the powers of the sea and the powers of the land. Once they were both done at the ancient site, both Team Aqua and Team Magma left. Then Team Rocket came out with Canoe's Kinkata. After saving Kinkata, he blasts Team Rocket off with Hidden Power. Omega parts way with Ash and his group, once again, to battle against the gym leader, Brawler. On the next day, in the afternoon, Omega left Dewford Town Pokémon Center with a healed team and headed to the Dewford Town Gym to challenge Brawler. The battle started with Brawler's Machop against Omega's Grovyle. Thanks to Grovyle's speed and his Leaf Blade and Bullet Seed, was able to defeat Brawler's Machop. Brawler called back his Machop and called out his Hariyama. Omega decided to keep it with his Grovyle since his speed can try and hit Hariyama. However, Brawler's Hariyama managed to deflect Grovyle's Bullet Seed. Since he doesn't have much stamina, he was able to finish by Hariyama's Arm Thrust. Omega called back his Grovyle and called out his Curlier, with Double Team and Calm Mind raising her attack and defense. and by dodging Hariami's attack with a ballerina footwork, she was able to finish the match with her confusion. When the battle was over, Brawler gave Omega the knuckle badge. Omega then healed his team, and on the next day he set off on his Skarmory to the closest city he hasn't been to, Slateport City. Once Omega arrived at Slateport City, he decided to do some training with Aaron and Steel. Omega does not meet with Ash and his friends until he decides to go to the Sea Museum. However, while at the Sea Museum, Team Magma, led by Courtney, were trying to steal the volcano rock from the bottom of the ocean. A battle breaks out between Captain Stern, Omega, and Team Magma. Ash's Pikachu tried to escape with the rock, but it falls and breaks into two, while the Manieras grab the half, and Team Magma retrieve with their prize. Oh, and as for Team Rocket, they failed to catch Ash's Pikachu, one of Team Magma's grunts, Manietta's Iron Tail. But once again, Omega went his own way. On the way, he battled and catching another new Pokemon in the Hoenn, Electrike. However, since Omega has 6 Pokemon, the Pokeball that has Electrike inside got teleported to Professor Oak. Once Omega arrived at Mauville City, he decided to switch out Skarmory for Electrike. Meanwhile, Ash and his friends and companions are in the Jurassic movie, so Omega is more than ahead. After 4 days of training, Omega was ready to take on the Sootopolis City Gym leader, Watson. Before I start, I want to let you know that about this gym battle, I mixed Watson's Pokemon video game moves from the Game Boy with the anime, since we don't see a lot of Watson using his Pokemon moves in the anime. So just like in the anime, Watson will be a 3-on-3 Pokemon battle, and he announced that he's using Voltorb, Magnemite, and Magneton. As for Omega, he says he's going to use Grovyle, Aron, and Shroomish. The battle started off with Winston's Magnemite against Omega's Grovyle. However, Winston's Magnemite used Thunder Wave to paralyze Omega's Grovyle, but Omega's Grovyle was strong enough that it can barely move with the paralysis. Omega's Grovyle had a rough time against Watson's Magnemite, but managed to win with Bullet Seed. As soon as Watson called out his Voltorb, Omega called back his Grovyle and calls out Aron. With Omega's Aron, knowing Rock Tomb and Mudslap, was able to win against Omega's Voltorb. Winston then called back his Voltorb and called out his Magneton. With Watson's Magnemite knowing Supersonic, was able to confuse Omega's Aron. Then, Aron was finished by some Sonic Boom attacks. With Aron down and Grovyle paralyzed, there's only one Pokemon that Omega can use, and that is Shroomish. Shroomish, however, managed to do a little bit of damage to Watson's Magneton. However, Shroomish was almost defeated, but evolved into Breloom, and thanks to its evolution, was able to learn Mach Punch. With Breloom's new move, and a 2-hit combo to Winston's Magneton, winning in the battle. Once it was over, Omega receives from Watson the Dynamo Badge. After a day of healing, Omega switches his team. In his team he has Grovyle, Curlier, Aron, Seal, and Electrite, with Breloom and Skarmory at Professor Oak's lab. Omega decided to go to Fallarbor Town to train his team ready for the next gym at Lavaridge Town, alongside catching a new Pokemon or two. Around Route 101, Omega met with the Windstreak family. And just like the Windstreak family, they asked Omega for a Pokemon battle against all 4 of them. The first battle against the father of the Windstreak family, Victor, against his Zigzagoon. Omega called out his Grovyle, unknowing to him how fast Victor's Zigzagoon is. But since their Pokemon were very fast, as well as Zigzagoon knowing Thunderbolt, however, Victor lost to Omega's Grovyle. Next is the wife, Victoria Windstreak, and she called out her Roselia. Omega then called out his Curlier, however, Victoria lost since Roselia is part poison type. Then it's Vivi's turn, and she battled against using her Meryl. Omega then countered this once again with Electrike. And just like Victoria's Roserade, she lost with her Meryl because it's a water type. But the battle wasn't over yet. Now it's Vicky's Windstreak turn, and she called out her most powerful Pokemon, Camelot. Omega checked out the Pokedex, knowing that it's a fire and ground type, so he called the Seal. Omega started the battle with Seal using Ray Dance to power up Seal's water gun attack and also decrease the fire attack of Camelot. However, Vicky's Camelot countered the Ray Dance with Sandstorm. Vicky then tells her Camelot to use Takedown, dealing a massive blow to Seal. But when Omega is about to lose, Seal learned a new move, Aurora Beam. Omega tells his Seal to use Aurora Beam one more time, while Vicky tells Camelot to use Eruption, causing the battle to end in a draw. When Omega was about to go, he gave him a gift for a thanks for an amazing battle, and the gifts were some Go Goggles, so he can protect his eyes to get at the sandstorm, so he can get to Fallarbor Town faster. After saying bye to the Windstreak family, he went to Route 111, but before going into the desert, Omega encountered a wild Nimble. Omega decides to battle with the wild Nimble with his tied Seal, but it was able to win, and Omega catches it, adding him to the team. Omega then entered in the desert sandstorm, but thanks to the Go Goggles, was able to see his way. However, he falls into a trap hole by a Trappage. Omega then decides to battle the wild Trappage with Grovyle. After landing some bullet seeds, weakening the Trappage, Omega then decides to capture it. Omega throws some Pokeballs at it, and after 3 shakes, Omega catches Trappage. However, the Pokeball that has Trappage in got teleported to Professor Oak. After exiting the desert, Omega arrived at Fallarbor Town. Omega decided to do 3 days of training with his team by rotating them. On the first full day, he trained Grovyle, Curlier, Aron, Electrike, and Numel. On the second day, he switched Grovyle with Blyloom and Curlier with Skarmory. At the end of the second day, Omega met with Ash and his companions at the Pokemon Center at Fallarbor Town. After knowing about the Pokemon contest in Fallarbor Town, he decides to take a break one time and watch the Pokemon contest. On the third and final day, before the Pokemon contest, Omega decides to battle against some Pokemon contesters to prove himself as well as the contesters. Omega battled against some contesters and won. However, he lost against a coordinator named Drew and his Roselia. At the Pokemon contest, Omega watched May won her contest against Grace's Metachamp. On the next day, Omega with his fully healed team, Grovyle, Blyloom, Curlier, Seal, Numel, and Trappage, went to Lavaridge Town. Omega walks up to Mount Chimney. While walking, he meets with Professor Tau Cosmo. After we're talking with him, he said he's searching for a recently felled meteorite. Omega, wanting to help out, says he will help him find the fallen meteorite. Once they found the fallen meteorite, Team Aqua and Team Magma both arrive after the meteorite, with Courtney ordering Team Magma and Shelly ordering Team Aqua. After the two teams were about to battle, Omega told Professor to run. Omega called Grovyle and Blyloom to fight Team Aqua's Pokemon, as well as Seal and Trappage to fight Team Magma's Pokemon. However, 5 members of Team Magma and 4 members of Team Aqua were about to pursue the Professor, and Omega decided to call his last 2 Pokemon, Curlier and Nubzol, to keep them away from Professor Tau Cosmo, with Curlier using Psychic to stop the 5 Magma Grunts, and Numel to use Ember on the 4 Aqua Grunts. Omega battled against the 2 members, however, Team Magma were winning. Omega called back his team and tried to find the Professor. After finding Professor Tau Cosmo, alongside with Ash, but most of all foiling both plans at Team Aqua and Team Magma by destroying the meteorite. After all that, says goodbye to Professor along with Ash and his friends and arrived in Lavaridge Town. But unfortunately, Omega needs to heal his team for 2 days since they both battled against Team Aqua and Team Magma. Once they were fully healed, he went to the Pokemon Gym in Lavaridge Town. But unfortunately, Omega needs to wait since Ash is battling against the gym leader. However, he has 1 more day to get ready, so he was watching Ash's gym battle and to know what to use. Omega then arrives and it was his turn to fight against the gym leader's gym leader, Flannery. Just like Ash's battle against Flannery, she started off with Macargo, nicknamed Mag, and Omega started with Numel. And even though her Macargo has an edge against long-range attacks, Numel can use Magnitude to shake Flannery's Macargo. Even Macargo using Double Team against Numel's Magnitude attacks, and after another Magnitude was able to win the battle. Flannery called back her Macargo and called out her Slugma, known as Meg. Omega to stick with the Numel, however 1 Magnitude was enough to take down Flannery's Slugma. Flannery then tells Slugma to use Young, putting Omega's Numel to sleep. And by doing that, he was able to hit it with a couple of body slams. Omega called back his sleeping Numel and called out his Seal. Seal, knowing Rain Dance, was able to power up his water attacks, as well as decreasing its Slugma's fire attacks. Omega then tells Steel to use Water Gun, making the direct hit to Flannery's Slugma. But when firing another Water Gun, Slugma tells it to use Smog, and thanks to Flannery's luck, it's poisoned Omega's Steel. However, Omega tells Steel to fire another Water Gun, and that defeated Flannery's Slugma in battle. Omega then called back Steel quickly to his Pokeball. Flannery then called out her last Pokemon, Torkoal. Omega, having no choice, called out his Trapinch. But thanks to Trapinch knowing Dig, was able to attack Torkoal from below. However, this didn't last long, because Torkoal used Sludge Bomb, and just like Steel, now Trapinch was poisoned. Then, Flannery told Torkoal to end it with Overheat, taking down Trapinch. Omega then called back his Steel, who still is poisoned. However, with Steel being poisoned, was able to be taken down by Torkoal's Overheat, only having one Pokemon left, and that will be a sleeping Numel. But thankfully, Torkoal used Overheat on Numel, but it didn't defeat him instantly. Then, Numel started to wake up, and as soon as Numel wakes up, Omega tells his Numel to use Magnitude, where a powerful Magnitude was able to beat Flannery's Torkoal. Once it was over, Omega received from Flannery the Heat Badge. After the battle against Flannery, Omega knows that he's going to need to get stronger to fight against Norman. While headed to Petalburg City, Omega headed to the closest city being Mauville City. So while he was restocking, he meets up with Wally at the Mauville City Gym. Wally was pleading with his uncle to let him battle against Watson. Wally then battles against Omega to prove his strength, but loses. He decides his uncle was right, but says he will train to become stronger. But before leaving Mauville City, he decides to switch out his Pokemon, Trapinch for Electrite. While stopping to do some training on Route 117 to Mauville City, Omega didn't know that a wild Pokemon is watching him. Once he rested up for the night, a Pokemon came out, and it was a wild Roselia. After hearing the Roselia's stomach growl, Omega decided to give Roselia some grass Pokemon food, along with some berry soup. The next morning, Omega said goodbye to the wild Roselia, but the wild Roselia still followed him. After an hour, Omega just asked the Roselia if he would like to come with him. The Roselia said yes, but before that, Omega bowed against the Roselia with Curlier. The Roselia pulls out some pretty good punches against Omega's Curlier, using Magical Leaf alongside Mega Drain, Sludge Bomb, and most of all Attract. However, Attract didn't work on Curlier because Curlier was a girl, and with the type advantage, was able to win against Roselia. Omega threw the Pokeball at the fainted Roselia, and after 3 eggs, Omega catches Roselia. However, the Pokeball with the Roselia inside teleported to Professor Oak's laboratory. When Omega arrived at Vedanta Town, he met with Ash and his friends, but decided to go to Petalburg City by entering into Rustboro Tunnel. And thanks to going through the Rustboro Tunnel in a day, Omega returned back to Rustboro. After meeting with the Rustboro Gym lead again, Roxanne, she asked Omega if he would like to battle against some of her students at the battle school. With the open opportunity of battling against trainers in the school, Omega accepts. After battling against 11 trainers, and the 5th one, Omega's Electrike evolved into a Magnetric. Along with the evolution, in the 8th battle, Curlier learns Psychic. And in the 10th battle, Bladeloon learns Counter. In the next day, Omega healed his team and continued his journey to Petalburg City. Once he arrived there, he met with Norman outside of the Pokémon Center and heard he's planning for a wedding anniversary for his wife. After hearing about that, Omega decided to do some training in Petalburg City, but before that, he switches Curlier for Skarmory. One day while training with Skarmory, Skarmory shows Omega her new move known as Spikes. Now, after Norman's wife was almost about to leave, and Ash winning the balance badge from Norman, in 2 days passed since Norman's Pokemon needed to heal from Ash's battle. The battle started with Norman Slakoth and Omega Skarmory. Omega tells Skarmory to use Spikes, and Norman will be dealing damage during the battle. However, thanks to Omega watching Ash's battle, he knows Slakoth has Blizzard that is useless against Steel types. After 2 Steel Wings, Slakoth was defeated. Norman then sends out his Vigoroth, but thanks to Skarmory's Spikes, it dealt some damage to Norman's Vigoroth. Then Omega called back his Skarmory and called out his Emetric. Both Pokemon were fast and strong in their own right, but with Omega's Electrike knowing the ability Static, was able to paralyze Norman's Vigoroth. Omega's Electrike then ended with Shockwave. Norman then called back his Vigorock and called out his Slacking. And once again, Spike deals some damage to Norman's Pokemon. Omega then called back his Electrike and called out his Grovyle, just like Ash's Grovyle, but was able to win 30% faster. After winning against the gym battle, Omega received from Norman the Balance Badge. After leaving his team, Omega left the same day in Petalburg. But before leaving, Norman tells Omega that there's a gym that he should go to in Fortree City. Whilst traveling for a few days at Fortree City, 3 of Omega's Pokemon evolved. Grovyle evolved into Sceptile, Numble evolved into Camerot, and Seal evolved into Celio. Omega wanted to switch teams so everybody gets experience, so in Oldale Town, Omega decided to return back Breloom for Trapage and Celio for Aron. While traveling, Omega meets up with Ash's friend alongside Savannah and the Flareon and Lairon. When Omega's Aron sees Savannah's Lairon, Aron instantly wants to get to that level. On that night, Omega's Aron trained harder. During his training, Omega was worried that his Aron, so he chose to take him easy. But on the next day, Omega, alongside with Aron, watches May's Bulbasaur battle against Savannah's Flareon and Lairon. After another scuffle with Team Rocket stealing May's ribbons alongside Savannah's ribbon, but they managed to get it back at the end. After Omega's Aron watches Savannah's Lairon battle against Team Rocket, he wants to battle him. Savannah accepts and battle against Omega's Aron. However, Aron couldn't win against his evolved form, but Aron didn't give up and started to glow and evolve into Lairon. Even though Omega's Lairon still couldn't win, since Savannah's Lairon knows Water Pulse. However, Omega's Lairon was happy that he evolved, and now he can be very useful on Omega's team. However, just like in the anime, Drew won the Rebello contest. Omega then parts way with Ash and his friends and wins his own way to Fortree City. However, they met up once again in Crossgate Town, and Omega then entered the Pokéringer with his Skarmory, but it was able to complete with the Pokéringer in the semi-final, coming in 4th place. After the Pokéringer decides to do some training with his team, at the end of the day, Omega's Traffic evolved into Vibrava. Now Omega does meet with Ash and his friends once again, but this time at the Weather Institute. The event at the Weather Institute was still the same, invaded by Team Aqua with Shelly. After Millie reveals that she, in fact, is a he, Brody, the man with the 1,000 face, a member of Team Magma, escapes with the hard drive containing the information of the legendary Pokemon Groudon and Kyogre. Team Magma also leave. Now, since Omega is with Ash and friends alongside being close to Fortree City, he decides to walk with them from the Weather Institute. After the Feather Carnival in Fortree City, alongside the fight with Team Rocket, at the end of the carnival, Winona, the Fortree City Gym leader, challenges Omega for a Skarmory race. Both of them hop on their Skarmory and race. However, the race ends in a draw, so nobody won. But Omega's Skarmory didn't like that. Ash then ended up battling against Winona the next day and received the Feather Badge. Now Ash's friend decides to watch Omega's battle, but don't worry, this won't ruin the main plot of Ash and his friends. They'll ultimately meet with Elijah and his Camerot. On this battle will be a 3-on-3. Since Omega knows about Iwona's Pokemon, he knows what to use against her. Iwona starts off with Altaria, while Omega called out his Vibrava. With Vibrava being part ground, Altaria's Peg won't do any damage, but since both Pokemon are Dragon type, they'll do damage to each other. In the end, both Pokemon knocked each other out with their Dragon Breath. Now, originally Winona would call her Petalburg, but since it took a lot of damage with Ash's Pikachu, she called out a Skarmory. But before choosing another Pokemon, Omega's Skarmory came out with Pokeball by herself. But Omega was going to use Skarmory anyway, because he wants to know whose Skarmory is stronger. Omega's Skarmory was able to stay in the battle, but once both Skarmorys clashed with the Steel Wing, knocked each other out. Winona called the last Pokemon her Shiny Swallow. As for Omega, he called out Hemetric. While battling, Winona's Swallow did an aerial ace. Omega then tells Hemetric to use Flash, crashing Winona's Swallow. Then Omega tells Hemetric to end it with his new move, Thunderbolt. Obviously a very hard battle since Omega's Hemetric is on the ground, but managed to pull it off. This earns Omega the Feather Badge. Then Omega parted ways. However, Omega ended up at the Banana Slacker Garden, but instead of marching the director of the Banana Sloth Garden, Omega catches the Snorlax. But Omega won't be using Snorlax for a while, and since Omega has more than 6, the Snorlax went to Professor Oak's laboratory. While resting at the night, Omega camped outside with his team and then found an injured Absol walking towards him. Omega did all he can with the Axel and decides to live and rest. In the morning, Omega sees the Absol looking feeling much better. But before Omega leaves, the Absol stops him and looking him into the eyes, knows that he wants to go with him. So Omega catches the Absol with a Pokeball inside and it got teleported to Professor Oak's laboratory. As he continued his journey, he arrived at Sootopolis City. Now, Omega didn't stay in Sootopolis City for the contest, instead got on a boat to Mossdeep City, instead of the 5 excluded islands in the Hoenn region that Ash and his friends went to, alongside meeting Kyogre and Groudon. While in Mossdeep City, Omega spent 3 days training his team. Since the last one, he almost lost to Winona. On the first day of training, Omega's Lairon evolved into Aggron, and his Vibrava evolved into Flygon. In the morning, on the second day, Omega decided to switch out Flygon for Absol and Camelot for Celio. After knowing Absol's moves, Sword Dance, Fight Attack, Bite and Quick Attack, he decided to use Absol in the 7th gym. When Omega arrived at Mossdeep City Gym, he meets with Taze and Liza, and this gym battle will be a double battle. So as soon as Tez called out his Soul Rock and Les called out her Lunatone, Omega called out his Absol and Celio. With Absol noticing Dark types and Celio being a Water and Ice type, along with the twins being hateful and argue with each other, Omega was able to win against them and received the Mind Badge. After the battle was over, Celio finally evolved into Wolverine. Not wanting his other Hoenn Pokemon to feel left out, he switched out Skarmory and Aggron for Curlier and Breloom, and thanks to Wolverine was able to ride him to the next city to get his last gym badge in Sootopolis City. Whilst traveling to Sootopolis City, Omega's Curlier finally evolved into Gardevoir. When Omega arrives at Sootopolis City, he rescues Wolverine along with his team. Once they were fully healed, Omega arrived at the Sootopolis City Gym and faced off against the gym leader, Hoenn. However, this gym is a 5-on-5 with a little twist. To get things started, they'll have a double battle, and although the challenger can make changes, the gym leader can only use 2 chosen Pokemon, and once the 2 Pokemon they chose are defeated, they go to a 1-on-1 Pokemon battle. In this battlefield, it begins with a large swimming pool, and one called out as Wishcash and Kingdra, while Omega called out his Walrein and his Sceptile. With the great training and the type advantage, was able to win against one's Wishcash and Kingdra. In the battle changes format, with Omega taking lead in the 1-on-1 format. Omega's Sceptile start things off against Juan's Loftus, but unfortunately, Juan's Loftus used Suicune, paralysing the Scratch type, which is too much to overbear. Juan's Loftus knocks out Sceptile with a Water Pulse. Omega then calls out his Electric, and by using its powerful electric attacks like Thunderbolt, was able to defeat Juan's Loftus. But when Juan called out his Sea King, and by using its horn, was able to deflect Manectric's electrical attacks. Omega then called back his Manectric and called out his Breloom. With Breloom knowing Mega Drain, was able to drain Sea King's health. But when Juan said Milotic, things were not looking good for him. Juan's Milotic loads recovery, though it goes back and forth with Breloom featuring plenty of healing. Eventually, Milotic scores the knockout with the Twister, but Breloom had done an incredible job. Omega then sends out his Mimetric and manages to deal some damage even with Milotic's recovery, but doesn't recover it completely, so Omega still has a chance. Omega tells the Mimetric to enter the water, and by doing a Thunderbolt in the water, was able to do some more damage than out. In the end, Omega gets his last gym badge, the Rain Badge. Now that he has all 8 badges, he can enter the Ever Grand Conference, and he only has 3 months to get ready. And with that, my trainer's journey is almost done in the Hoenn region. While making this video, doing all 8 badges wasn't easy, let me tell you. So next time, I'll be doing just 5 or 6 badges, and that will be it. Doing all 8 was just a test to see how far I can go, so I won't be doing it again. Now to my favorite part. Why and how of Omega's Pokemon. First off, why I have Trico from a Petalburg laboratory onto Omega's team. And is it Brendan's or Sora's Trico? First off, it isn't Brendan's Sora's Trico because in the opening, the Temple of the Sea, you can see Brendan having a Swampert in Lavaridge City at the Battle Tower. So the Mudkip that shoots his water gun at May could be that Swampert. As for Sean, we found out it isn't the same Trico because in Battle with Elegant and the Big Smile, Sean had Trico while Ash is in Kalos. And we don't know if it's the same Trico or a different Trico. Next is how on earth Omega catch a seal in Dewford Town instead of Song Cave like in the game. Well, just like Ash catching Corfish on Dewford Island, I thought I would like to do the same thing. Besides, seal isn't strong like Ash's Corfish for the first time. As for anyone who's wondering where Wally is, don't worry, he will be back. He will be appearing in my Pokemon anime journey, so don't worry. Now it's time for my favorite part, telling you about my Pokemon's moves. So you all must be thinking you're gonna start with Trico. Wrong, because I'm gonna be talking about Skarmory. Now for all those who skipped Johto, here are its moves. Skarmory's moves are Steel Wing, Agility, Sky Attack, and Swift. However, she forget Agility to learn Spikes. Now it's Trico's turn. This Trico knows Pound, Leer, and Quick Attack, and whilst in training, it learned Bullet Seed. But as soon as he evolved into Grovyle against Roxanne, just like Ash and Sean's Trico, it forgot Leer to learn Leaf Blade, and then Pound for Agility. Then, once he finally evolved into Sceptile, and while training with Flygon, it forgot Quick Attack to learn Dragon Claw. Next is Rolls. When Omega battled Rolls, the only move were Growl and Confusion. After some training, the young Rolls learned Light Scream and Teleport. Once Rolls evolved into Curlier and was in training, she forgot Teleport for Calm Mind and then Growl for Double Team. Then after a lot of training, proved her Confusion for Psychic. Lastly, Curly evolved into Garva without knowing any new moves. Now it's to the second grass Pokemon, Shroomish. In the episode, Taming of the Shroomish, Omega Shroomish only knew was Absorb, Tackle, Stun Spore, and Leech Seed. While training in Dewford Island, Omega Shroomish absorption became Mega Drain. Then, once it finally evolved into Breloom during the battle in the Mauville City Gym, Breloom forgot Tackle for Mud Punch and Stun Spore for Headbutt. Then forgot Headbutt for Counter, then Counter for Sky Uppercut. Now it's the adorable Spiel. Now this Spiel knows Powdered Snow, Growl, Water Gun, and Defense Curl. After some training, it forgot Growl to learn Body Slam, then Defense Curl for Rain Dance. And while battling the Windstreak family, it forgot Powdered Snow for Aurora Beam. And when it evolved into Celio, it forgot Rain Dance for Ice Beam. And when it evolved into War Rain, it forgot Water Gun for Water Pulse. Now it's Aron. Now this Aron is special because instead of Tackle, it knows Rock Tomb instead, along with Harden, Mudslap, and Headbutt. While training on Route 111, Aron forgot Harden for Iron Defense and Headbutt for Metal Claw. When Aron meets Savannah's Leron, Aron does the same hard training and forgot Rock Tomb for Roar. Once Aron finally evolved into Leron, and after some final training, evolved into Aggron. Once he evolved into Aggron, he forgot Roar to learn Metal Sound and Mudslap for Earthquake. Up next is Electrite, who moves are Thunder Wave, Leer, Hound, and Quick Attack. But after some training, it forgot Thunder Wave for Shockwave, Leer for Flash, and while battling against Roxanne's student, it finally evolved into Manectric. When it evolves into Manectric, it managed to learn Thunderbolt by forgetting Shockwave. Now it's Numel. Now this Numel knows the basics for Growl, Tackle, Ember, and Magnitude. But once it evolved from Numel to Camelot, all its moves change. It knows Rock Slide, Rest, Eruption, and Earthquake. Now it's for Trappage, having Bite, Dig, Sand Attack, and Sand Tomb. Once Trappage evolved into Vibrava, it forgot Sand Tomb to Rock Slide, Bite for Crunch, and Sand Attack for Dragon Breath. And finally, when it evolved into Flygon, it still knows the same moves. Also, there is Omega's Roselia. Omega's Roselia knows Magical Leaf, Mega Drain, Sludge Bomb, and Attract. Next, it's Absol, and its moves are Soul Dance, Flight Attack, Bite, and Quick Attack. Up on the table is Snorlax from the Banana Sloth Garden. And in the anime, its moves were Yawn, Hyper Beam, and Body Slam. But after rewatching the episode, I would say it knows Rest as well. And with that, that's all the Pokemon Omega catches in the Hoenn region. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to comment in this video and I'll reply with your answer. This is Omega Emperor, stay awesome.